Hey there, fellow Texans. We had a strange rash of violent crime over the weekend. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 829.33 FM WBAP. Well, don't clap for that. You're clapping for the show, right? Not for the rash of violent crimes. Because the number one trending story in all of America today is the mass shooting that happened in Seattle. And then if you narrow it down on Google Trends to just the DFW area, the number one story trending today is the mass shooting in Seattle. Now, the mass shooting in Seattle is not the main story if you turn on MSNBC. It's not even that much on Fox News. But I see what you're searching for. I see what your neighbors are searching for. I see what all of America is searching for. And it's a terrible story. I think it's getting a lot of people's attention because it includes just the terrible tragedy of the youngest person involved being 2 years old.
A frightening scene in Seattle, near the city's iconic Space Needle. A gunman opening fire Sunday evening, killing 3 people. Police say those who died ranged in age from 19 to 56 years old. 4 others injured and hospitalized, including a toddler.
I'm being told that the suspect may have an automatic weapon.
Yeah, so that's the main one. However, there's a lot of stories like that this weekend. We'll dig back into that. Because that looks like good old gang violence. Not quite white rural rage like you were promised. But I'm almost shocked that some of these other stories that sound almost as bad aren't getting as much attention. There was a similar mass shooting. I mean, when I say similar, it's almost the same details. There were 2 guys caught up in the street gang life, and they had recognized each other with the pre-existing beef, so they both pulled out their guns and opened fire on each other. And a bunch of innocent people standing around them ended up getting hurt. Now, this other one was in Asheville, North Carolina. Oh, look, I misspelled Asheville. And when the police chief came out and did the press conference, this is going to make you flip over the table, unless you're driving and you don't have a table. If you're standing next to a table, walk away from the table. Because this lady comes out, and the question is this gang violence? Because the police report says, well, these 2 pre-existing groups of people who have been committing crimes together in the past recognized each other from a pre-existing. Oh, so you're talking about gang? Like, that's a whole bunch of words just to say gang. Now, she doesn't want to say gang because you and I know what gang violence means, or probably means. Overwhelmingly, in your experience, when it's gang violence, people getting shot on the news, it's probably not a white guy. It is sometimes. But you know, more often than not, when you see this on TV, as anecdotal as it sounds, it's probably a black guy, a Hispanic guy. Maybe you've seen an Asian or 2. You've seen white people do it too. But the odds are it's not going to fit the narrative. So listen to this lady. And by the way, Asheville, it's in North Carolina, but it is a very, very liberal place. She can't even say the term gang violence because she knows that's adjacent to the racial discussion that we're all kind of having in our heads right now. So remember, it's not a black riot, it's a teen takeover. And it's not gang violence, it's just groups of people who got mad at each other.
Does the Asheville Police Department believe this is 2 families that are rivaling against each other here, or is it gang violence?
This is a group of individuals who know one another.
But would you categorize that as gang violence, or would it be just 2 guys that got in a fight over a bar or something like that?
These are groups, again, that are committing acts of violence against one another.
Like crime groups?
I would say these are 2 groups of individuals. I would say there are, ties to them knowing each other.
Okay.
And committing ongoing retaliatory acts against one another.
You know, there's a table on the other side of the studio. I'm going to take the coffee maker off the table just so I have something to flip over. Doesn't that drive you nuts? So these are 2 groups of people that commit crimes together, but I don't want to say the word gang. Can you stop covering for them for 5 seconds? We're not ever going to really get to the solution. Do you not want to get to the solution? Or does the solution necessarily mean the end of the popularity of your worldview? Now, let's keep zooming out here. There was a wild street fight that happened in Tulsa. This one didn't get a whole lot of reporting around here, but if you go to the local news up there, I just saw this on floating around on social media. Here's just a clip from a TikTok channel called Total News Tulsa.
Break it up! Please break it up! Please break it up! Get off! Get off!
I'm always surprised when there's a street fight and the police show up and they don't quit fighting. They're like, no, I've got to finish this dude off. Hang on, officer. I'm still punching this guy. So this is happening all over the place. We have a mystery shooting in Forney. I don't know who did this, but it's a thing. And because they didn't tell us. I don't know where this is going. Just
a developing story we're following. Forney police are searching for 2 suspects in what they call a targeted attack. One person was killed in the shooting at a home on Eagle Ridge Road. Investigators say they know the identities of the suspects, but did not reveal them or the identity of the victim.
Why not?
And exactly what happened. They do say there is no threat to the public.
Let's go across the pond. In Berlin, they're having a pride parade. An angry militant Muslim drives his car through the parade, killing one person and injuring, I believe, 17. Wait. This is the organizer of the pride event saying we don't want anybody exploiting this to be divisive or for political purposes. Really? You just gathered all of your gay friends and y'all had a party to celebrate how awesome it is being gay. Someone comes, hates you so much, they want to run over you and they murder you. And you're like, well, I don't want to say anything bad about them.
We reject all forms of violence. Ideologies, be they religious or other extremists, are trying to suppress people. We do not want this deed to be instrumentalized for political ends. We don't want any groups to be placed under suspicion for this. People are trying to divide our society and set some people against others. As the CSD in Berlin, we will not allow this.
You know, they can call you a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, Nazi, literally Hitler, but the guys running over them, they don't want to say anything negative about them? What the heck is really going on? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I will continue through the crime spree over the weekend, and then I will thread them all together like a quilting bee coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey homeowners, James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. One of the main things that Blue Ribbon does that you haven't done as much as they've done, not just the roof, the dealing with the insurance company. Look, in my entire life, I've only owned 2 homes. I had to replace a roof once. So I've only dealt with an insurance company once in my life on a claim. This is what Blue Ribbon does every day. And they have great stories about how people will call them and either the insurance company is shorting them or not giving them anything at all. And they come through and they reclaim and they get all the money you deserve, all the money that they're legally obligated to give you. Blue Ribbon knows how to squeeze that out of them. And it starts with the phone number that you call. If you have an issue with your roof, what do? You go look at your policy, you call your insurance company, you let them know what's up. That's not who John Hopkins calls. He calls the guy that they're going to call after they hang up with you. He skips a step and goes right to the guy in the middle, and he gets better results just because he's not, we're not geniuses over here. We're not splitting the atom. He's just done this for thousands and thousands and thousands of your neighbors in North Texas. So it's not just for a good roof. It's not just because it's a good local family company. It's not just because they support the James Show and WBAP. It's because they'll help you with that insurance claim. Go to blueribbondfw.com. I don't think you appreciate just the incredible amount of violent crime that happened this weekend. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, I didn't really pay much attention to the news until last night. I really was able to turn off my brain from Friday after the show until the sun went down last night. And all I kept seeing on my social media feed, just trying to look up what's going on around the world, are these mass shootings, these teen takeovers. We had a mass shooting in Nashville. We had a mass shooting in Seattle where a 2-year-old got shot. Now, I don't even stop there. There were some teen takeovers. I played you some audio of a big one that happened in Tulsa. I mean, there were a couple more of those. I'm not even really that worried about teen takeovers on a day when there's shootings. And then I was playing you over in Europe. An angry Muslim rammed his car into a pride parade. Let's go over to their neighbors in France. In France, there was a stabbing spree by some guy yelling Allahu Akbar. 3 women were stabbed. I don't think any of them died, but I hadn't really checked back up on that since I saw the story last night. I was just making a list of what is going on with all this violent crime. Now we have another story here where this one's from Houston. You probably didn't hear about this, but this was a crazy story about a guy who was running around just beating people. And in one night, he beat 4 people. This was all along Highway 249. All of these alleged attacks occurred in a 24-hour span. And one of them, he hit a dude with a machete. And another one, this guy's still in the hospital. His name is Nan Lee. He's 34 years old. He's been in the hospital for a week now. And it was captured on surveillance video. He's just minding his own business, going down the road on his bicycle. He got hit with the crowbar. After he fell, he's pretty much already knocked out. The guy continues to stomp on him, kick him, and hit him with the crowbar. And he's just laying helplessly on the ground. He's just getting hit like a sack of dog food, just laying there. Now, the reason why this is a big story here is the guy with the crowbar and the machete. He has a pretty violent criminal history. Arrest after arrest after arrest. This isn't his first. This isn't his second. In fact, he was most recently arrested in November for beating the crap out of an elderly person. Somehow, this case was dismissed, and the judge said, "We'll drop your charges. You just need to go to mental health treatment." Now, the Houston source I'm looking at, the NBC affiliate here in Houston, I don't know. KPRC doesn't know what program he went to, if he finished the program, how long he was in the program, if he got A's and B's. We don't know what he made in arts and crafts. But we do know 5 months later, he's out here making 4 separate attacks. What happened? What treatment did he get? I don't know. Whatever he got, it didn't work. It doesn't stop there. We also had the terrible accident that happened last night where a trucker hit a woman who was just sitting on the side of the road. I guess she had car trouble is the assumption here. She's sitting in the car with 2 of her kids. Some trucker just rams up, knocks her off. I guess she was next to a bridge, knocks her off the bridge. All 3 of them die, WFAA.
This all happened just around 11:30 last night. DPS says that 38-year-old Venetia Williams and those 2 children were inside a disabled Hyundai in the right lane of eastbound Highway 80 when a semi crashed into them. The impact sent the Hyundai over the bridge, concrete railing. All 3 people who were inside the car died at the scene. The semi driver was not injured, and they told investigators there was no time to avoid that crash.
Now, they don't say this on the news, but on social media, they're saying the guy couldn't answer the cops' questions in English. So what do we have, another foreign driver here? How many of these have to happen? These are all preventable crimes. These are all people who have demonstrated that they're terrible human beings and public safety is at risk if they remain in the country or remain out of jail, and they're still left among us to kill us, to hurt us, to run over us, to hit our cars, to stab us, to hit us with crowbars. These are all people that if we just enforce the law the way they were written, all these people would still be alive. All these people would be out of the hospital. All of these victims would not have been victimized and been able to gone on about their way. It's even crazier for the Germany one. Do you know? You probably didn't get the background on this, but this is psychotic. The Germany one. If you're just joining us, I was talking about the Berlin Pride parade had a angry Muslim run through and kill some people and injure 17 other people, put them in the hospital. Listen to this. His name's Abdul Balout. I don't know how to say his name. Abdul. I'll just call him Abdul. He was born in Berlin, but he's a radicalized Muslim, so he went to Lebanon to fight for the cause. Germany, after he had moved to Lebanon, identified him as an Islamist threat. They're like, oh, this guy's a terrorist. So what did they do? They had him arrested in Lebanon. They flew him back to Germany. They put him on trial for plotting terror attacks. He was convicted and sentenced for terrorism in May of this year, 2 months ago. But he was released on time served. What was the point of bringing him back? You have a terrorist who went to Lebanon. They're like, wow, let's bring him back here and release him into our streets. And then also, we'll go ahead and convict him of the crime of plotting terror attacks, but we won't give him any jail time. We'll just take a terrorist who we know was plotting terror attacks, bring him back to our country and release him. That's insane. He's already back on the streets. Oh, but he needs to attend de-radicalization counseling sessions. Well, did that work? Did the de-radicalization counseling sessions work? For the Houston guy that was running around bonking people in the head with the crowbar, well, did his mental health treatment, did that work? You know, there's one thing that would have kept all these other people alive. Prison or the death penalty, one of the two. But releasing people that we know are dangerous back out in the streets is continually getting people killed. And I hate to put a political angle on it, but you know they're going to put a political angle on it if the roles are reversed. I don't think, barring the Forney guy, I don't think any of these would match what CNBC was warning you about. White rural rage, remember that? I don't think any of that matches this. None of these people were white. None of them were rural. None of them were right-wingers. Whatever they were, it was some flavor or constituency of Team Blue.
White rural rage.
The threat that white rural voters pose to the country. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. Third, they're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalist. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
Looks like we're the least violent people among us. I am tired of the slander that happens against people who happen to share my skin tone. And then I got to turn on the news and see the exact opposite going on out there. How are we vilified? How are we the ones that get, oh, look out for these guys. They're all violent. They're a problem. We've got to do something about white supremacy. We got to do something about white. Stop it. Take the racial angle out of it, because these people who see everything through a racial lens are getting my black neighbors killed. The lady that got hit by a trucker, who was probably a foreigner, that's one of my neighbors. She happens to be black. Her 2 kids happen to be black. I do not want to cover up her crime or soft pedal it just because the trucker happened to be a foreigner. If we actually deported this guy, if we didn't bring him in, 3 of my black neighbors would still be alive, and that's what I prefer. Now, how are you going to call me anti-black? I'm over here trying to save their lives. If you would have done what I would have said, she would still be alive. So don't you dare bring up race in this. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, violence that can't be prevented by things we've recommended on the James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. We had a crazy rash of big violent crime stories. And, you know, violent crime, we only have so much bandwidth for so many stories, and it doesn't get a whole lot of mentions on this show if there's just like a shooting from the drug deal gone bad, or, you know, a lot of us have been able to compartmentalize it because you and I recognize that most of the shooting that happens is something that is never going to affect you because you and I aren't caught up in the drug game. More than 90% of the people who are murdered every year in America already have a felony on their records. So if you don't have a felony on your records, the violent crime problem's not really that bad. If you never go to anything other than the nice part of town or the middle of nowhere, then you really don't have anything to worry about when it comes to murder. If you live out in the middle of if you live in country, if you live in a red, medium to small town, you really don't have to worry about violent crime like this. But there's a lot of people listening who can't escape it. There's a lot of people here who this is happening in their backyard. They can't help where they're from. There's a lot of people who don't share that level of safety. Now, when we start running through, you know, the things that we can control and things that we can't control, the one thing that really bothers me about so many of these stories that I've already told you is how many of these were absolutely preventable. The 3 women that were stabbed in Paris by the Muslim attacker, well, you imported that guy, right? If you had some sensible screening mechanism for people you allow in your country, that wouldn't have happened. The Houston attacker who hit a guy with a machete and another guy with a crowbar, the crowbar guy is still in the hospital. I think his family might have to pull the plug on him. He had a long questionable rap sheet where he should have gone to jail in November. We have the other story about the Berlin Pride Parade getting rammed by an angry Muslim. That was a guy who was actually born in Germany, but his name's Abdul. He was an Islamic radical. He went to Lebanon to go fight the Holy War. Germany brought him back, put him on trial, found him guilty, didn't send him to prison, just released him on the street. Easily preventable. Now, I don't know the details on the big story of the day is the Seattle shooting. That's what most people are searching for. It's the number one search for national and DFW area is this Seattle shooting. And look, I want us to put them all together because I imagine when we get to this Seattle shooting, this isn't going to be the first time these nice scholars have broken the law. But let's run through some questions that you have seen in the comment sections on so many of these stories. Because like the Seattle shooting, many people were killed, among them a 2-year-old. What was the last count? 4 dead, 3 dead? But in this one, is Benjamin Crump going to show up? Is Al Sharpton going to show up? Here's another one. 2-year-old got shot, died. Anyone going to block a highway for the 2-year-old that got killed? Anybody going to raise them $1 million for the family of the dead toddler? Are they going to raise money for the shooters? Is there going to be a GoFundMe for any of these people that's going to be national and get tons of money? No protest though? No highways blocked? So you don't care if someone shoots someone in your community that's a 2-year-old in the head, but you do care if someone in your community stabs a white kid in the heart and might actually have to go to jail for it, for murder. What is going on? Now, this isn't a stain on the entirety. Of course not. This is a small minority within a minority. I have seen probably more black friends, at least in my orbit, speak out against this than speak out in favor of it. But there's no shortage. There's too many people who think like this. And the sad part is how many of these were preventable. Almost all of them. The trucker that killed your neighbor and 2 of her kids in Terrell last night, that could have been easily prevented. And we didn't learn from the other 4 truckers that had gotten into easily preventable wrecks in the last 2 years. We haven't learned from that. No, we're just going to let it keep happening until we start, what? Cleaning up our trucker rolls, mass deporting of people. This is going to keep happening. Now, let me do a terrible one. This is the real heartbreaking one. Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Don't worry, this isn't going to be like a sports segment or anything. Stop. He seems like a nice enough guy. I remember him from his college days. I remember him when he played for the Bengals. He's a great running back. And he made the transition to coach. So he wasn't just a guy who was good with the rock. He actually has a brain up there. You have to have a brain to be a coach. Seems like he's done a pretty good job with the Kansas City Chiefs. His wife was shot by their son. Now, this one, everyone has to worry about. You and I don't really have to worry about gang violence because we don't hang out with gangsters. You're not going to pride parades. You don't have to worry about being run over by Muslims. But for something like this one, if you're not rolled up in the drug gang, if you're not a convicted felon, you're more likely to be murdered by a family member than a stranger. And in so many of instances where some kid does something bad, you can say, well, this is probably the parents' fault. Not this. Not this. You've probably seen this. I've seen this too. From my small town when I was growing up, there was a family and I was close friends with all three brothers. They were all about my age. They were like in consecutive grades. And the oldest brother, awesome guy, got good grades, graduated top 10% of his class, went to college, has some corporate job where he makes twice as much money as me. He lives in Houston now. The youngest brother, maybe not quite as smart, but disciplined enough. He finished high school, went to college, has a professional job. I think he's just like pushing paper as a middle manager in a corporation somewhere. Middle kid, he's in jail. He was the bad one. And you can't say it's a socioeconomic factor. You can't even say it's a genetic factor. Some kids are just born bad seeds. And about 2% of us are just born with a screw loose. And Eric Bieniemy and his wife could have done everything right. Got married, stay together, raise him in a loving home, put him in a good school, teach him proper discipline, take him to church, pray for him, surround him with good influences. And sometimes if you do everything right, it still doesn't work out for you. And I think that what might be happening in the Bieniemy's wife being shot by their son, that's the one that isn't preventable. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we'll talk about solutions to this list of violent crime coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, what's up, homeowners? Sometimes you live in a house and you love it when you buy it, and nothing changes, but just the world around you changes. And you might have liked those red bricks or that kind of orangey, red, rusty color brick when you bought the house. That's what everyone thought was cool. But now all the cool kids are doing like the muted neutral tones, and they're like, oh, this needs to be like a gray with like the dark pewter trimmings. And I was like, I don't even know what these colors are. Look, whatever your wife is asking for, Rhino Shield can do the color. And take advantage of this chance. Upgrade your house. And you can also lower your energy costs. You know, I was 1,000 degrees all weekend and your air conditioner ran about 23 hours a day. I think we can get that down to about 22 hours a day with Rhino Shield. It has a 6.9 R factor, blocks 90% of UV sun rays, water resistant. The best part is the look, though. It won't change the surface texture of whatever's under it. So it'll look great. And you can come back in 10, 15 years. There's going to be no cracking, no flaking, no peeling. And so the Rhino Shield will just last as long as, well, the color lasts. And maybe you can change your mind in the future, but I don't know anyone who has undone Rhino Shield. In fact, I asked the guys at Rhino Shield, like, has anybody ever said, strip this off, I want to go back to paint? And they said no. So it starts with you going to rhinoshielddfw.com, rhinoshielddfw.com. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Remember the WBAP morning show when you wake up. And also remember that Donald Trump's coming to town. He's going to be at the Republican midterm convention here September 9th and 10th. I know that feels like it's super far away. 6 weeks. 6 weeks away. Oh, by the way, parents, are you with me? The first semblance of school starting happened in the Parker household. Kids went to band camp. Oh, had to drop them off at band camp this morning. And not that kind of band, not the American Pie band camp, not the, this one time at band camp. No, not that. The one where you drop them off at school and they have to march at 8 in the morning in the heat. So they will be out of your hair soon, fellow parents. But we're going through a list of violent crime that happened over the weekend, and I could do something close to this every Monday because there's always, Friday and Saturday, those are the good crime nights. The thing that bothers me and really should bother you too about this is how many of these were absolutely preventable. The biggest one is the Seattle shooting. Look, I don't know a whole lot about that one. I don't even know who the suspects are, but whenever you have gang shootings where two people pull out guns and start squeezing off rounds in the middle of a crowd, it has been your observation that far more often than not, it's probably gang related. So if these guys have a rap sheet and they were let out, even though they've committed significant crimes, then this would have easily been preventable. The 2-year-old that got shot and died would still be alive. The one in Houston, that guy had a long questionable rap sheet. If we just instituted the policies that you support, lives would have been saved. 4 people were attacked in a 24-hour span last week in Houston because of this guy. The guy that ran through the Pride Parade in Berlin. Boy, they really had to stretch to make that happen. That guy had actually left the country on his own. Germany went and arrested him in Lebanon, brought him back, tried him for a crime, found him guilty, didn't put him in prison, just released him on the street. They went and picked up a terrorist in another country and brought him in after he'd already left. And then the 3 women that were stabbed by another Allahu Akbar motivated mass attack in the Paris stabbings, that was an import too. So many of these are quite easily preventable. And then you had the one that's technically not a violent crime, or I don't know if it's not on the same level. The trucker that hit the lady in Terrell last night, killed her and her 2 kids. They didn't say it on the news, but the rumor mill on social media is he couldn't answer the cops' questions in English, so they had to bring in a translator. So we think, what? Is this another foreigner, another foreign trucker? We've allowed foreigners to take over the trucking industry and undercut our local guys, our local blue-collar families, the ones that need it the most. Same thing they're doing with the ride shares at DFW. The one that worries me though is the son one. Eric Bieniemy, the former football player, now a coach for Kansas City. His wife was shot by their son. He's just a mental case here. But the only one that I still have a question mark about over my head is the mystery shooting in Forney. They said it looked like a planned attack. There's 2 suspects on the loose. They didn't give us an identity on them, which makes you suspicious, rightfully so. The longer they wait to tell you, the more suspicious you get. But let me give you an influencer here. He's a black influencer, and I've been trying to make a point to play more black influencers saying the same things I'm saying, so I'm not saying this place out of racial animus, and also to acknowledge that most black people don't share some of these weird worldviews. I believe they're a minority within the black community, and people like Zeke Arkham, this is his name, Zeke Arkham, are the majority. This is what I see.
I better not hear any more complaining about racism, about systemic racism, about how you can't get this because of the white man, or it's the system that's against me, or why can't we have this, and why can't reference videos like this, because you were the only one doing anything in this video against other people. The rest of those people were just camping out from the rain, but you had to make it, I'm not friends with any of them. They don't want to be friends with you, LaQuisha. They were minding their own business. They were in their own groups. They were talking. You were the one that had to make all of that about yourself. And I'm understanding now where all the fatigue is coming from. I mean, I got it before and I got my own fatigue. Trust me. Don't link me in with people like her because that just pisses me off because now I'm like, no, I'm not like, I don't even know her like that. That ain't my people. No.
And then on the other side, let me play you a white influencer who is on the wrong side of the worldview, who I vociferously disagree with. This is her talking about the angry Muslim that ran through the Berlin Pride Parade.
We reject
Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Rando, there it is.
I'm getting really, really sick of this. I'm getting really tired of having to repeat myself over and over again. So today, in Berlin, there was an attack. A van drove through a crowd of people celebrating Berlin Pride Parade that they have every year. It's a huge parade. It's one of the biggest. And they injured, I think, at this time I'm making this video, this is subject to change, 17 people, and one person is dead. So the suspect is an Islamic extremist. That's their suspect right now. That's what I read, okay? I'm not going to say anything about the rest of the Muslim population because of actions of this one person. But what I can say is the people who were celebrating about this were all white men, young white men, with crosses in their profiles. Because we've all seen it. We've all seen how you guys react towards gay people and how you wish harm on them constantly. I get a constant hate on my videos, especially about trans people. You're not going to hide behind another scapegoat group and pretend that they're actually the violent ones when it's you. You hold the same exact beliefs that this man who did this attack did. And you're trying to distance yourself from it. And you know why you're trying to do that? Because you're ashamed. And you should be.
Yeah, so a Muslim runs through a pride parade, and you know who the bad guy is? White Christians. Are we running cars through parades? Are we throwing you off buildings? That's crazy, isn't it? 800-288-9227. Coming up next, you put these people in power, what kind of policies will they institute? You'll hear from the DSA next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. So if the DSA gets in charge, what do they really want to do? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Democrat Socialists of America. Now, this is the force that is pulling Team Blue even further to the left than they've been in your entire life. But it's really not any new ideas. The idea of socialism being repackaged as democratic socialism only works on people who haven't, seen this playbook before. You definitely have. But young people, they're so easily swayed by stuff. And the great success of socialism has been able to fool people into believing socialism is something it's not. Because you ask a socialist, well, nobody's allowed to have $1 trillion, but no one goes hungry. Well, is that what's happening in Venezuela? No one's allowed to be a billionaire over there? Oh, right. Hugo Chavez's family was the last billionaires until Maduro showed up. Now, Maduro and Chavez's family are the only billionaires left in the country. Meanwhile, you have to break into the zoo to eat the animals. Forgot that part. But look, the scary thing about socialism is in two parts. Number one, economically speaking, it's not been a winner anywhere. Number two is they murdered over 100 million of their own citizens in the 20th century. And so the whole, part about, socialists, if they don't get their way, that blood starts flowing in the streets. That's kind of a concern a lot of us have had. I also feel like my grandfather went into World War II to fight the socialists, but here we are. So it was great that Shannon Bream had on, I think her name's Stephanie. Her last name's Romer because I listed it as Romer here. Had on Romer from the Democrat Socialists of America to talk about their policies. Now, Shannon Bream had a graphic where she was scrolling some of the policies that the Democrat Socialists of America have said that they followed. Now, you're not going to be surprised about the economic socialism part where they want the government to own or control major industries. Look, that's the bedrock definition of socialism. But this flavor is a little worse because even for most of the socialist countries that you have seen when we were fighting them in the Cold War, Hunt for Red October and all that, at least they wanted to put criminals in jail. You can even say that about Venezuela. You can even say that about Cuba. They don't have a crime problem. Why they put criminals in jail? So is this an even worse version of socialism than the one that murdered 100 million of their own citizens and tanked every economy that touched it in the 20th century?
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then let's go back through some of those then. Abolish the Senate. There are people who are in the Senate now who are very supportive of DSA. They lose their seats?
Well, the Senate is an anachronistic institution. It comes from the British House of Lords. It is made to protect power for, the Senate was part of the system that was made to make sure that the people didn't have too much of a say.
Yeah, don't you like how the Senate's anachronistic? Socialism's not anachronistic? What about this? What about the Constitution? Is that anachronistic? What about Das Kapital? Is there an expiration date on that when it's no longer contemporary and becomes anachronistic? And no, the Senate wasn't based on the House of Lords. You intentionally misleading. You know what the Senate was based on? Yeah, the Roman Senate. Duh. Effing duh. Shares the name. Do you get to vote on senator? Are you in the Lords? Are you a noble? Oh no, that's not. And that's not even how it was set up. It was set up not as the House of Lords was set up. Where the patrician class gets to, the nobles get to have their representation. Now, actually, the way the founding fathers set up our Senate, the state legislature of each independent state was supposed to vote on who their two senators were going to be. They changed that with the 17th Amendment, and so now it's direct election. Under neither one of those paradigms does it match the House of Lords. So how does that make it a bad thing again? Just Don't you love how that's anachronistic? What about freedom of speech? Is that anachronistic too? But the crazy one that is probably new to you is the abolition of prisons. You're not surprised that they want to take over industries. You're not surprised that they want to regulate and control every aspect of the economy and centrally plan it. That's built into the name. But this getting rid of prisons thing, this is even worse than regular socialism. So let me get this straight. You're going to crush the economy. You're going to make us all poor, and then we're going to have to deal with criminals as well. But no, look, let's be fair here. Let's let her explain herself. Shannon Bream kind of noodles in this policy.
So if we talk about abolishing prisons, then does that make society better? I mean, is there anybody that should be incarcerated? I mean, rapists, child predators, murderers?
Yeah, so the long-term plan, when we think about most people who are in prison, they are mostly in prison for crimes of poverty.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the really, like the
I hear
murderers
you.
and
So
rapists of the
when
world.
so when we get rid of this need for crimes of poverty to exist, when we get rid of that destabilizing force that creates so many people who are living in desperate situations and doing desperate things, that brings those numbers down to very small numbers, and then we can collectively decide what we do with those people. I suspect it won't look like the prison system as we know it today.
Okay, but you do think some people need to be locked away from society?
Some people are not able to be functional members of society. That's true. But what does that look like to keep the rest of us safe? We're talking about safety. We're not talking about punishment. We're talking about making sure that we're safe, everybody maintains their dignity, and everybody maintains their humanity.
What about the people that get killed by the people y'all were soft on? What about the guy that got hit in the head with the crowbar from some guy that just got let out of jail earlier this year? What about the guy that got let out of jail 2 months ago and he just ran his car through a pride parade? Everyone keep their dignity there? We'll push back against this abolition of prisons idea because this isn't fairly new. This is kind of new, but it's every bit as bad as it sounds. And we'll just go down, we'll dig in this belly button coming up next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Who needs prisons anyway? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM. WBAP. You're home for the WBAP morning show. Check them out when you wake up until Matlock takes over at 9. But we were reviewing some of the policy positions of the Democrat Socialists of America, and it might be time to start paying attention to them because they keep winning so damn many races. We have a DSA guy that's running New York City right now, and we'll get into him in my next. I know, probably the next segment, I think. But they keep winning primaries. They might win this one in Michigan that's happening on August 4th, and if they do, we're going to have another DSA guy in the Senate. So that would be like the highest ranking fellow we have right now that openly admits to being DSA, but pretty much the squad. AOC, Pramila Jayapal, who are the other bar scene from Star Wars people in there? They're pretty much Democrat socialists. They'll tell you that. So this is something that's taken root, and it's even worse than your regular Team Blue policy positions. And when Shannon Bream was asking Stephanie Romer about the list from the DSA website on things that they would like to do if they were in charge, there's a good discussion here on prisons. Let's focus on this for a second.
So if we talk about abolishing prisons, then does that make society better? I mean, is there anybody that should be incarcerated? I mean, rapists, child predators, murderers?
Yeah, so the long-term plan, when we think about most people who are in prison, they are mostly in prison for crimes of poverty. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the really, like the murders and rapists of the world. So when we get rid of this need for crimes of poverty to exist, when we get rid of that destabilizing force that creates so many people who are living in desperate situations and doing desperate things, that brings those numbers down to very small numbers. And then we can collectively decide what we do with those people. I suspect it won't look like the prison system as we know it today.
Okay, but you do think some people need to be locked away from society?
Some people are not able to be functional members of society. That's true. But what does that look like to keep the rest of us safe? We're talking about safety. We're not talking about punishment. We're talking about making sure that we're safe, everybody's safe, everybody maintains their dignity, and everybody maintains their humanity.
So this is built on the falsehood that most crime is poverty driven, which in her mind, and you probably saw this too, this actually exempts them from the guilt of their crime, because then the crime's not their fault. We have enough food. The fact that we won't share with them and they're forced to commit crime. Now, you know that's bunk. I know that's bunk. We know where the crime comes from. We see what happens every day. We could talk about the crime that just happened this weekend. The guy that ran through the Pride Parade in Berlin, was that a crime of poverty? No, it was not. The Allahu Akbar guy that stabbed 3 women in a knifing attack in Paris, was that a crime of poverty? No, it was not. The guy who smashed into the back of the car over here in Terrell and killed a young mom and her 2 children, was that a crime of poverty? No, it was not. What about the teen takeover, big street fist fight in Tulsa? What about the one that happened in Tampa? Were these crimes of poverty? What are you even talking about? With the Seattle shooting, the mass shooting where a 2-year-old got killed, was that a crime of poverty, or was that just, gang violence and people got disrespected? Was Carmelo Anthony, was that a crime of poverty? The Houston attacker went around smacking people with a machete and crowbar. Was that a crime of poverty? Was he thinking, I'm hungry, I'll go knock this Asian guy in the head with a crowbar, and then what, a loaf of bread will appear? And plus, they keep studying this over and over and over. And the science is just crystal clear. Poverty has nothing to do with crime. Absolutely no overlap in the data set. Go look at this article from City Journal. Do you know City Journal? city-journal.org. Go look it up. A Columbia study. And now, Columbia is not on my side. Columbia is not on your side. Columbia wants to make a connection with poverty and crime so bad. That's why they started this study. But they had to come out and admit the conclusion that there's no connection. And one of the first examples that they mentioned was New York City. So in New York City, we have an Asian population that is heavily, more so than around here, either first generation or second generation immigrants. 23% of New York City's Asian population is impoverished. They live under the poverty line. 19% of the city's black population lives under the poverty line. But guess who has the highest crime rate? And guess who has the lowest crime rate? That's right. The population that has the lower proportion living in poverty has the highest crime rate in the city. And even though Asians, 23% of them live under the poverty line, they have the lowest crime rates in the city. Of course, Hispanics and whites are floating around somewhere in the middle. But Asians consistently, no matter where you put them in America, have a lower arrest rate than their proportion of the population. Something tells me this has nothing to do with crime and everything to do with culture. So there's the first lie that this is all built on. Is all most of the people that are in there, if you're just in there for theft or you're in there that it's not your fault, it's just a socioeconomic crime. They're ready to let all of those people out. They're ready to let all of the thieves and robbers out. They are giving them all a pass. Now, I don't know if you remember from COVID, but when the vax came out at the end of 2020 and in 2021, when there was a big push where they were taking everything away from you to try and get you to take it, there was a crazy poll that was taken where 27% of Democrats thought that you should lose your child if you didn't get them vaccinated. So they want to punish you, but not actual criminals. They don't want prisons for the guy that robbed your house or stole your car or carjacked your aunt. But you can lose your kids if you don't do the vaccine. This is insane. 800-288-9227. Now, coming up next, Mom Donnie has another terrible idea that's already been tried 10,000 times and failed every time, but he's going to do it anyway. Government grocery stores. I'll burn this down next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. No, maybe this time for real socialism will work. We just haven't done it right before. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We were just rolling through interview with the Democrat Socialists of America, talking to Shannon Bream on Fox News. Coming up, we'll see what this looks like in practice, because Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, wants to do socialized grocery stores, government-run grocery stores. But this is an idea that has already failed all around you. It's failed here in Dallas, failed in Waco. I'll be breaking all that down coming up next. But this is Mag in Cleburne. You're on the James Show. Hey, Mag.
Hey, how you doing?
Great.
There's one inevitable conclusion that always occurs with socialism, and that's they're not going to need prisons because they're going to subjectively deem everybody a threat to the safety of society and just kill them all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a funny thing to say, but we've seen when socialists do take power, they have prisons and they fill them up with dissidents. That's for sure.
Yeah, but they kill millions. Anybody they subjectively deem a threat to the safety or well-being of the society, they're not going to, them criminals aren't going to be let out of prison. Most of them, they'll disappear.
Okay, now you're absolutely right, Mag, but you and I both know that they'll actually kill the lady that was doing the interview before they get to you and me, probably. Like, those are the first to go, the useful idiots that think, hey, I thought I was going to get to do like poetry slam. What do you mean I got to dig this hole? Right? So
yeah, and the wealthy, they'll kill them and secure their fortunes so that they, got all the money.
All good points. All good points, Mag.
These people that think they're immune to what may be coming because they're temporarily on their side just do not see how socialism and communism really work.
Well, of course, but Mag, it's understandable how a young person would be in that situation. I don't understand how a 50-year-old would be in that situation, but a young person who's never heard anything good about capitalism their entire life, and then every TV commercial is like a stupid white guy getting, corrected by a minority of some sort. Every Netflix show almost is geared toward this weird socialism worldview, the Team Blue worldview. All of their academia, all of their favorite celebrities, all their favorite musicians have all been pushing this. The news every night is so biased and dishonest. They have no idea. They have no idea what they're really supporting, and that's, I think, the only thing that makes sense to me, Mag.
And that's the pity, that history has been so whitewashed that people haven't been taught the lessons of the past. They say those who forget history are doomed to repeat it.
Oh, but they know about slavery, Mag. My kids know all about slavery, and they know about the civil rights movement, and they know about segregation, and they know about Jim Crow. It's like, well, do you know how a mortgage rate works? And they're like, what's a mortgage? And it's like, God damn it. Not back. All right. So let's go. Thank you very much. Great call. That's Mag in Cleburne. 800-288-9227. Here's this isn't a new idea. This is an old idea. Mamdani wants to do government grocery stores in New York City, and he's bragging about it.
Since 2019, food prices have soared at grocery stores around the country by roughly 30%, in fact. Talk to shoppers around the city, and you'll often hear the same frustration. Wages have not kept up, which is why city government is stepping in to make people's lives more affordable. Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores.
Show me in history where this has ever worked for 5 seconds. I mean, not for 5 seconds, but you know what I'm saying. Show me where this has worked before. And don't you love the setup here? The prices have gone up 30% since 2019. Yeah, because we printed $6 trillion out of thin air. Because we haven't balanced the budget since, 2001? That's why everything went up 30%. This isn't an issue with groceries. Everything went up 30% because we had 30% inflation. So if you're really concerned about, the price of groceries went up 30%, what would the answer logically for you and me be? Oh, well, then we need to balance the budget so it doesn't keep doing that. But what do they say? Socialism. They tried this here before. They tried this when I was on doing the morning show in Waco 10 years ago. They wanted to do this, but the excuse then wasn't 30% inflation. The excuse then was, these poor people in this disenfranchised, underserved community, they live in a food desert. Oh yeah, a food desert. So yeah, now we have to have socialism. No, they always want socialism. They're just going to shoehorn the excuse into the current context of the day, which makes it a lie. But also, We already know how this story ends. So, you know what? Go ahead and do it, Mom Donnie. Go ahead and brag. Oh, no, we'll just sell everything for 30% cheaper than the other guys. Oh, okay. What could possibly go wrong? You think they're not selling it at 30% cheaper because they're just evil guys who are making a giant profit and then lighting their cigars with $100 bills and laughing at the poor people disappearing over the horizon? No, it's because they can't afford it. They would lose money. They run on very thin margins in the grocery business. I worked at a grocery store. It's tough. It's not that easy. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let's go back in history here. Come on. I brought the flux capacitor. You're stuck with me now. We're going to go back to, I'll tell you this story from Waco since I saw it firsthand. 2016, they had a food desert in Waco because a couple of stores had closed. So this nice, sweet Team Blue nonprofit is going to do the great thing of setting up a store so poor people who are in this underserved community could be walking distance from an organic bell pepper, and that would solve their problems.
It's one of the recurring sounds on day one of Mission Waco's Jubilee Food Market, a new nonprofit grocery store in North Waco, close to neighbors like Lucas Land.
We love the work that Mission Waco does, and we love our neighborhood, and so we're excited to have a grocery store really within walking distance.
Within walking distance from his home and just across the street from Latrice Caulfield's work.
It's closer, and for what I've seen, the prices are cheaper.
Providing cheaper prices than at convenience stores and giving access to fresh food are some of the reasons Mission Waco started this program. A program 468 people supported, with donations or in-kind donations totaling nearly $870,000.
Today was the fulfillment of a dream. For so many years, I have watched our neighborhood walk 2.5 miles to go to a grocery store. Today, when I walked into this store, I knew that they could get fair prices and good deal and fresh bread and produce and vegetables.
Being a mile away from a grocery store made the area near North 15th and Colcord a food desert. But that changed on Monday.
By the very opening today, the food desert is over because people now have access for healthy and affordable foods. What we don't know yet is how it will impact the health of our folks.
And Baylor University students will be conducting research. They will see the impact that grocery store will have on eating habits in North Waco. The Jubilee Food Market is open 7 days a week. Anyone in the community is welcome to shop there.
Coming up, I will continue the story of the Jubilee Food Mart because this is what's going to happen in New York City. This is what's going to happen everywhere it's tried. I'll give you an example that happened here in Dallas. I'll give you an example that happened in New Orleans, but we'll finish the Jubilee Food Mart story next. And it's going to be a nice little failure that I think you'll enjoy. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Remember, Donald Trump's going to be in town September 9th and 10th for the Republican Convention. Tune in to WBAP pretty much anytime during that event, and we might have some awesome guests for you. But we are responding to Mom Donnie coming out and saying, hey, man, we're going to do this old government grocery store to help poor people afford groceries. And every time this is tried, it's failed. Now, I'm walking you through one that I made fun of personally because I was on the radio in Waco when they did this, and I was mocking it the entire time. So I just played you the news report from 2016 when the Jubilee Food Store opened in Waco in a food desert because they knew better than Kroger and Brookshire's and H-E-B and Safeway and all these other companies. They knew better where to build grocery stores than these companies that do it for a living. These social justice warriors. We're going to show you capitalist pigs how it's done. Now, make no mistake, Jubilee actually had a lot of advantages. Did you hear in the news report how much money they raised? If you were going to go start a business, you'd probably have to take out a loan to fill up everything on the shelves, and then you'd have to make loan payments, and you'd have interest on top of it. So you'd have more overhead. So even with the generous donations that kicked it off, it didn't stop there. There were donations that were made. There were fundraisers. There were other people that have fundraisers, and they would donate it. So Jubilee Food Mart was getting most of their money not from selling nutritious, organic, healthy products in a food desert, but from political grifting. There would be some earmark and some grant in Austin that would go to it. There'd be some earmark and some bill that went through Washington, D.C., and some of that would filter down to some other program that would filter down to the Mission Waco that would filter down. So they were getting money from you in various ways and from private donations, something no other grocery store has available, and they still failed. Now, something else they got was constant positive coverage. If you went and you opened a store, you wouldn't get nearly the coverage if you were on the news at all that Jubilee Food Mart got. But they also came back, and every few years they would just say, hey, look, we're having ourselves an anniversary here. That's right. We had the Jubilee Food Mart's been around for 3 years. Let's go celebrate it. Do they do this for other businesses? This like there's a Taco Bell around the corner. They didn't do this for the Taco Bell. They didn't say, look, it's been 3 years since it's open.
It's been 3 years since Jubilee Food Market opened their doors. The grocery store celebrated their third anniversary earlier today. Raffles and gift bags were given out to show appreciation back to the community.
It is important because we want to show our appreciation to the community, how well they have supported us in having the store open.
During the event, Jubilee asked their customers for items that they would like to see on the store shelves.
Yeah, how about a closing sign? 5 years into it, here's another TV station, KCEN in Waco, falling all over itself. Look, it's another great anniversary.
The Jubilee Food Market is a nonprofit grocery store run by Mission Waco. They're celebrating their 5th anniversary today of serving the community.
We're celebrating not just 5 years of being in business, but we're also celebrating our slogan, which is live well, eat well. And so we have a lot of different healthy product inside the grocery store for people to try. But then we also have different providers kind of celebrating living well as well.
Dude, I went in there. It's just as bad as the dumpiest gas station you've been in. You know how sometimes you go in a gas station and they'll attempt to have like a produce section, and there's like some bananas that are kind of brown, and there's like tomatoes that are got flies on them or whatever. It wasn't the greatest of situations, but they weren't there to sell food. They were there to grift tax dollars and take donations from private charities as well. So now let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit. Let's go to 2025. How's Jubilee Food Mart doing?
Well, a Waco community will soon be losing access to healthy foods at an affordable price.
Yeah, so Mission Waco's Jubilee Food Market will close next Monday. That's the 31st. Now, the nonprofit says that this is because of increased competition from new grocery stores as well as online delivery services.
Or no, it could be that socialism never works anywhere it's tried for at least 200 years of experimenting here. Yeah, I don't know. It's the competition. No, it wasn't the competition. These other stores, they don't get donations. They don't get tax grants. They don't get help from other nonprofits. I'll do you another report. This was a different station in Waco, KXXV.
Well, Mission Waco has announced the Jubilee Food Market will be closing on Monday, March 31st. The organization says the market was founded in order to provide affordable fresh food options in a neighborhood with limited access to groceries.
Oh, stop it. I hate it. Whenever someone says the word access, especially in a news report, my brain just turns off. Well, they need to have access. Why do they need to have access? Why do they need to be walking distance from a carrot? You know what? When they said this was a food desert, and the FDA went out under Obama and they spelled out what a food desert was, and they marked on the maps where all the food desert was. Then the Reason Foundation, I think it was Reason, they went through and they calculated the average distance an American had to drive to the grocery store. So when you take where I grew up, which isn't really in a town, it's just kind of an unincorporated Smith County. It's a 30-acre hayfield in the middle of nowhere. We were 40 minutes, a round trip of 40 minutes from the nearest gallon of milk. No one ever cared about us. No one ever said, well, we've got to do something about it. They're not walking distance from a cucumber. You know how I knew it was going to fail? Because my previous job, I was in New Orleans, and they did the same dumb thing there. Do you know who Wendell Pierce is? He was in The Wire. He was in Suits. He's the Meghan Markle's dad in Suits. He put up a whole bunch of his money to go open one on the West Bank of New Orleans in a food desert where this was an underserved community that's being abandoned by all these racist corporations because they don't like to serve underprivileged, disenfranchised. Shut up. It didn't work. This is 2013.
Sterling Farms. Right. This is a fresh food grocery store going into underserved communities to eliminate food deserts. Sterling Farms. Right. This is a fresh food grocery store going into underserved communities to eliminate food deserts, taking the opportunity to take advantage of the pent-up demand, because all the consumers in those areas where unfortunately American business stands on the sideline, we said we're not going to stand on the sideline anymore. We're going to come in and bring them food access.
And they did the same thing in New Orleans. They had a big party. They had all kinds of interviews. He got to be interviewed by everyone when it opened, when there was an anniversary, when there was a party, when there was a holiday, when there was a special event, when he was going to do like an autograph signing. He got all kinds of free promotion, got all kinds of money from you against your will, and it still failed within a matter of years. Everywhere this goes, it fails. So let's just walk through and remember this. When the Mom Donnie grocery stores close, remember you heard about it first on the James Show. Even though I don't know if I could take much credit for that, because it's one of the easiest predictions to make that socialism will fail. It doesn't make me a genius, just makes me observant. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, find out who is polling in first place to be your next nominees for president in 2028. Because November's around the corner, and after that, the next presidential cycle begins. Find out who's ahead next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, the next presidential election cycle is either going to be really good or really bad. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I know, good to see you too. Hang on. I don't know if you're going to like this next poll because, I mean, you've kind of thought this, and I mean, I'm not really too worried about this, but it is disappointing the direction that public opinion is going. According to a new poll, a majority of Democrats for 2028 support AOC. That's the number one candidate. I shouldn't say a majority of candidates. She has a plurality over Pete Buttigieg, butt jig, whatever. But a majority of Democrats do support socialism over capitalism. I know, geez, what is going on here? Terrible education system. You know, this is why when people write into me, because this was maybe 2 months ago, in a long list of things that I want, one of them was to get rid of public schools, and someone sent me a message on Facebook. Jesus effing Christ, Parker, that's the dumbest S I've ever heard you say on your show, and I've been listening for 2 years. That's the dumbest? We have a school system that is cranked out. A majority of Democrats support socialism over capitalism, even though socialism murdered over 100 million of their own citizens in the 20th century alone. How on earth do you have a positive view of socialism at all, much less over capitalism? That's crazy. That, if I need to explain further why we need to, at least, maybe you don't agree that we need to have all private schooling and get the government out. We at least need to make some big changes. Whatever we're doing right now isn't working. We have kids who are coming out of school dumber than when they went in. If these kids, instead of going to school, if they had just sat around watching stupid SpongeBob cartoons all day, they probably wouldn't support socialism over capitalism. Dude, unless you have some sort of correcting force at home, unless you have some sort of balance in your media intake or whatever your parents are balancing with your public schools, sending your kids to public school makes them dumber in many ways. So the new poll comes from the University of New Hampshire. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in first place. Here's the rundown from Shannon Bream on Fox News and her guest.
Democrats are navigating this issue over who will carry the party's torch. Left-wing candidates have racked up wins in recent primaries, fueling this internal conflict between the party's moderate and progressive wings. Now, this University of New Hampshire poll shows Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez leading a field of potential Democratic presidential candidates. She stands at 22%, with former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg at a close second with 21%. Notably, former Vice President Kamala Harris falls far behind with 5% support. AOC has been outspoken about the need for change.
I think a lot of people aren't sure, depending on where you're from, what it means to be a Democrat. What do we stand for? What are we fighting for, as opposed to what we are against? But that doesn't mean that that is characteristic of the whole party.
So now this Fox News poll shows Democrats view socialism more favorably than capitalism by an 11-point margin. 59% of Democrats view the Democratic Socialists of America positively. Disillusionment is driving the surge. Pollster Nate Silver says highly educated voters with lower to middle household incomes are the most Democratic voting group in America. The DSA's own member makeup speaks to that. The debates over the direction of the party are happening as the DNC reportedly takes a key vote this week on which states will kick off the 2028 Democratic primary. New Hampshire is one of the 12 states vying for an early spot, and that order is crucial as winning candidates enjoy momentum, so AOC could see a boost in the Granite State. We should note, though, that it is still early and the Congresswoman has not mentioned her political plans.
Oh, she's running. She would be dumb not to run. If anyone is in her orbit, you're crazy not to. She's in first place. She has to run. So get ready for that. She is, if you have to pick it now, I think it's going to be the candidate, because the rest of them, like, you think she's bad. This is what the rest of the field looks like. Kamala Harris is still polling at 5%. This is what we want. Have you seen the brain trust that's running for Senate right now? They have a primary on August 4th. In the Michigan Senate race, and they've got this lady who looks like the motivational speaker. My name is Matt Foley. Remember that Chris Farley skit from Saturday Night Live? This is what she sounds like. Stevens. We'll probably make fun of her tomorrow. She did a big, long soundbite. I don't have time to get into it today, but maybe tomorrow. So that's who you're looking at. Now, on the other side of the aisle, I mean, I'm not a whole lot more excited. When you look at who's running in the front, it's usually J.D. Vance, and then there's sort of this Ron DeSantis, Marco Rubio second tier. And I have a hard time supporting Republicans. I'm definitely anti-Democrat because socialism is just dumb as hell. I just don't think the Republicans are free market capitalists enough. And so I can kind of get down with some of the Freedom Caucus. Like if Rand Paul's running, I support him. That would be my guy. If Tom Massey were to try and run, now I don't think he will. But like him, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, there's only a handful of people that I think really share enough of my values in a political office right now that I would even consider voting for. And I got news for you. Don't get mad at me. I just want to go ahead and set this out now so you don't get mad at me later. Is if it's not a Rand Paul or a Thomas Massey or one of these Freedom Caucus guys that gets a Republican nomination, I'm voting for a libertarian. I'm supporting a libertarian. I can't do this. It's great that Donald Trump closed the border. That's fantastic. But he hasn't done anything to balance the budget. Anthony Fauci's not in jail. We still have a $2 trillion deficit almost. And we still have all of these dumb agencies that should be closed immediately if I had my way. But no, I don't think it goes far enough. But on the other side, I think you really do have to be worried about AOC. I don't think we have an answer I don't think the Republicans have an answer for AOC. You can say, well, look, socialism's failed everywhere it's tried. Apparently, these people haven't gotten that memo yet. And I don't know what's going to change about it coming up in 2 years, because we are now less than 100 days. We are 99 days away from going to the ballot box in November. We're going to count those votes. We're going to take about 3 days off. And after that weekend, when we come back on Monday, the next presidential election cycle starts. So that's 99 days away. And it's not looking too good. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is the part of the show where I ask, who would you like to see run? Are you cool with J.D. Vance? You support Marco Rubio? Maybe Ron DeSantis? Because Ron DeSantis is a maybe for me, but we'll see. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, we're talking about the candidate frontrunners for 2028. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. And thank you to all the people who send me Facebook messages and emails. I don't get to respond to all of them. I mean, I guess I could. I'm kind of lazy, but really I can do that for about 20 minutes before I start to get bored and check out. But I can promise you this. I read everything you send me, everything that's in a Twitter message, a Facebook and I get more Facebook messages than anything. Instagram message, wherever you're reaching out, I'll eventually see it. And I do, make no mistake about it. If you're going to take the time to type it out and it takes me this long to read it, I'll read it. Not everyone's getting a reply, but thank you. I've gotten some great messages today. So AOC is in the lead for Team Blue, followed closely by Pete Buttigieg. And then on the Team Red side, Mayor Pete, on the Team Red side, it's kind of a three-way race. J.D. Vance is in first, and then depending on what poll you look at, it's Marco Rubio and or Ron DeSantis. What do you think? This is Joe and Grapevine on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
James, honor and a privilege as always, my friend.
Hey,
job you're doing.
What's up, Joe?
Hey, buddy. What's going on, man? James, I always appreciate your stance and how you are about being a libertarian. I consider myself not a Republican, but a conservative. Same as I think who is open on this sister station, Sean Hannity. He's registered as a conservative. James, there's so much that I can say, and I've got some libertarian thrown in there as well, and that's why I appreciate you. But even though you're libertarian, you know which side you're probably going to lean toward, and I appreciate it being Rand Paul. I like Rand Paul, but the problem is, James, agree or disagree, we've got to stick together right now.
No, disagree.
We don't. Well, I disagree. I disagree. We have got, because Rand Paul is not going to be the front runner.
Only because y'all say that. Only if everyone on Team Red would stop saying that, he would be the front runner. If everyone on Team Red actually stuck to your principles, he would far and away be the front runner.
Well, look how he's holding up everything with this.
As well he should.
Well, I don't agree with that. We just need to stick together, because look at all the fraud and abuse we've discovered, James, what the Democrats have done. They act like none of this has happened. They act like the gas prices, they show no concern whatsoever about that. They were on the green agenda. They wanted the gas prices to go up. There was no denouncing or upset about the economy or what people were having to live.
Okay, but Joe, let me explain myself, because I don't know if I've ever answered these kind of direct assertions here, and you're making some good points. So you're right. Doge did go find a bunch of fraud. Nick Shirley did go find a bunch of fraud. All these other people who've now actually CBS News, and these other people who go knock on doors, people around here, the Kaylee Campbells and Sarah Gonzalez, we're finding fraud all over the place. But Joe, are the Republicans putting forth a bill that gets rid of Leering centers? Are Republicans putting forth a bill that gets rid of home health care services? Are they putting forth a bill that gets rid of home hospice services? Are they putting forth a bill that gets rid of federally funded medical transportation services? Are they putting forth any bills to actually stop this? Or are we just going to slap some people around for the news to make everyone think that they're doing something great, and then everything will be back to business as normal in about 26 months?
Well, a lot of these agencies, James, they did shut down. They were specific. They did shut
we're not.
down.
We're
far as the funding, yes, they did withhold it or stop it. But what have we had to deal with, James? Lawsuits, somebody suing us, interference.
That has no bearing on whether or not it's the right policy or not. And if they're going to sue you for doing the right policy, then get sued.
We still have done a lot more with this presidency than many.
I know.
They've been more open about anything.
And the guy that's attacking me with a knife is better than the guy that's attacking me with a gun. I'd rather not take any more injuries, though, Joe. And we can't stomach just staying together while we have $40 trillion in debt. We can stick together, and we're going to tank our currency. We're going to collapse our economy. We're going to ruin our military. We are going to be invaded with foreigners who are going to mass kill us and take over. We are being colonized, and they're not stopping it. Has there been mass deportations of any of these guys trying to set up Sharia cities around here? Has he revoked the TPS status of all these people that he could right now? Do we have an end to the H-1B visa program? Have we even stopped the herd of people coming in through H-1B visa fraud? No, we haven't. Just getting along and sticking together isn't good enough anymore, Joe, and it hasn't been for a long time. Chris and Keller, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you're telling me my options are J.D. Vance, Florida governor, or
Rubio,
the
yeah.
third guy, I can't. Yeah, if my options are the three of those, I'd rather take the Florida from the governor of Florida.
Same.
JD, my biggest thing about JD, I like him. I think he's getting a master class in foreign affairs and all of that. He's 35, 36 years old.
I think he's 38, but yeah, he might be a little more libertarian than we let on. And I don't even mean libertarian. I mean like he's 42. Thank you, Garrett. He's actually a guy who believes what conservative Republicans believe, but he just kind of sticks to his principle more than most people who I see call themselves conservative Republicans.
Right. Well, the thing that's been irking me about JD, he can't go two sentences without saying the word fundamental. We fundamentally need to do this. It's a fundamental. You got to get a broader vocabulary.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. Well, Ron DeSantis is probably my favorite Republican if I had to choose through the ones that are already on the list, just because he was maybe one of two governors who didn't get duped by the whole COVID thing. Because Governor Greg Abbott fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And the fact that Donald Trump didn't turn around and fire Anthony Fauci after 1 week is a blight on his record, that's for sure. But no, that's good, Chris and Keller. This is Carrie and McKinney. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hey, James. Yeah, I am in McKinney, so it's Carrie, not Curry.
Okay. There's a lot of curry up there, too.
Telling you, you hit the nail on the head with what you were talking with the first caller about.
Joe?
Took a lot of steam out of my argument. But I tell you what, in the last election, I was pretty much down for DeSantis as the vice president. Vance is okay with me, but I really like DeSantis unless there's something I don't know about. Rubio, I think he's gotten a lot of exposure. I think he's very solid in what he's doing. I wouldn't mind seeing him as a VP or a secretary.
No, hell no. Rubio is the kind of Republican I am definitely not. This is a guy that votes for every shutdown compromise, every bit of deficit spending, every bit of war spending. It's everything I'm not as far as the Republicans go. And he's not a stalwart on cutting taxes. He's not a stalwart on cutting programs. He's not a stalwart on making the government smaller. He's everything I don't like about Republicans.
Okay, maybe I need to revisit that then. I appreciate the clarity. But if AOC, are you really serious about her being the front runner and being on the ticket as a presidential candidate? That's really serious, right? Are you kidding me?
Not only is she ahead in the polls, but if a Democrat strategist paid for my honest opinion, I'd be like, the smartest candidate you have to run. Your best likelihood of winning would be AOC.
Well, if she can't be beat, then they deserve to lose it.
Agreed. Agreed.
She's
That's
not
fantastic.
A policy hawk. She's not a policy
No,
hawk.
she's an idiot.
Slogan maker.
She's an idiot.
She'll wear a slogan on a dress, but she can't tell you what she wants to do as far as guiding the country forward.
Well,
besides using
lower your bar, because if they can make Biden their nominee, they can definitely make AOC the nominee. Coming up next, we're going to play Dead or Alive, and the prize today, 4 tickets to the Rangers game on August 8th. It's a Saturday game. So call in right now, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, you're just in time for Dead or Alive. I'm James Parker. You're listening to The James Show on News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. Let's take a break from the hot, heavy news of the day. Have a little bit of fun here with the game show, Dead or Alive. All right, thank you, Mr. Jovi, and welcome to Dead or Alive. Today, we're playing for 4 tickets to see the Rangers versus the Baltimore Orioles on August 8th. That is not this Saturday, but next Saturday. Here's the cool part. The first 10,000 fans into Globe Life will receive a golf polo courtesy of Energy Transfer. So that's cool. It's like a giveaway night, but you get a polo shirt. Nice. Get tickets information at texasrangers.com. Don't bother calling now because the phone lines are full. But on Dead or Alive, it's the easier of the James Show game shows. I'm going to give you a list of 10 celebrities. You just have to tell me if they're dead or alive. James, that sounds easy. It is. Today's category is Famous Johns. And we start at the top is Sue in Dallas. Hey, Sue.
Hi.
You ready for Dead or Alive?
Sure.
Okay. How confident are you in your knowledge of Famous Johns?
No, not at all.
Sounds like I'm asking for prostitution clients, doesn't it? Famous Johns. All right. I'll start off with an easy one for you, Sue in Dallas. Johnny Cash, the Man in Black, dead or alive?
Dead.
John Cena, the wrestler, is he dead or alive?
Alive.
That's his little sounder. John Lennon, dead or alive?
Dead.
Well, you waited on that one. John Wayne, the actor, dead or alive?
Very dead.
Very dead. I don't think there's degrees of dead, but yeah, you're still correct. John Travolta, dead or alive?
Alive.
John Denver, dead or alive?
Alive.
No, John Denver died in a plane crash like in the 90s or something, wasn't it? All right. Well, thank you, Sue. You knocked most of them out for the next one. There's only 4 people left. And let me move the screen. Who's been on longest? Josh. All right, Josh is up. Hello, Josh in Plano. You're next up on Dead or Alive. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's see if we can win you some Ranger tickets here. John Candy, the comedian and actor, is he dead or alive?
Ooh, dead.
John Candy is dead. John Cusack, is he dead or alive?
Alive.
John Malkovich, dead or alive? Do you know who that is, John? Do you ever see Being John Malkovich?
I did.
You did?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, okay. Good movie. Anyway, go ahead. Dead or alive?
He's alive.
He is alive. All right, well, now you just have one more, and you're going to get the Ranger tickets here, Josh in Plano. John Goodman.
Okay.
The actor John Goodman. He was Walter Sobchak in Big Lebowski. Is he dead or alive?
Oh, yeah. He is alive.
Heck yeah, he's alive. That dude's awesome. I didn't mention a lot of John Goodman's roles because he did 1,000 of them, Garrett. All right, so Josh, congratulations. You are our big winner. You got 4 tickets to go see the Rangers. Are you a Rangers fan?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, good. So you get 4 tickets. It's not the game that's coming up this Saturday. It's next Saturday versus Baltimore, Globe Life Field, August 8th. And hopefully, if you get there in time, you can be one of the first 10,000 fans at the ballpark that get the free golf polo courtesy of Energy Transfer. So I'm going to put you on hold. Regular Garrett will get your info, and we will email you the tickets. This has been today's edition of Dead or Alive. All right, congratulations to Josh in Plano for his great victory. For the rest of you, if you want tickets and you want to try and get one of them free golf polo shirts, and go to TexasRangers.com. TexasRangers.com. All right, coming up next on The James Show, some local news. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Ugh. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're home for the WBAP morning show. And I know y'all like the WBAP morning show. I just have to remind you about it because anytime Hal J posts anything on Facebook, it's just an explosion of likes and loves and comments. And you're the best. I've listened to you since the Reagan administration, all that. So I just need to remind you every once in a while. He's still there. He's still doing it, killing it every morning. Go check it out on the WBAP morning show. All right, for this last segment, I'm going to try and shoehorn as much stuff as I can. And it's all local news. Number one, a data center developer has withdrawn a project that was slated for East Texas because of Governor Abbott's new standards here. Damn it, this is what I was talking about. When Abbott said that 2 weeks ago, I was like, that's the wrong move. He's now saying that not because it's the right thing to do, not because he's really worried about electricity generation or water tables or anything like that. He's noticed that a whole lot of people, even people on Team Red, are already freaked out about data centers, so he wants to go get credit for it. He sees people showing up with signs, and they have their little foam core stencils out, and he's just late to the party. Well, it's already had negative consequences. Remember, Abbott said, I'm going to require all new data centers to make their own electricity, and dude, look, this was...
Data centers must bring their own power. They must reuse their own water, and they must reduce electricity costs for residential customers as well as small business customers. Those are bottom line expectations.
All right, and what did I say at the time? You know, you think that if you make a law that says if you're going to build a data center here, then it has to generate its own power. Then the people that were just going to build data centers go, oh, man... all right, I'll do whatever you say, even if it's not what's best for my company. No, now they're just going to build it in Oklahoma or New Mexico or Montana or hell, I don't know, China. You don't get the new power plant because you mandate it. You push the data center elsewhere. That's what regulation does. It doesn't actually fix the situation. We lost all that investment. This was a big data center. This was billions and billions of dollars that were going to be spent over here at Cedar Creek Lake. You hear people calling in from like Gun Barrel City and Maybank and those little towns around the lake. That's what we're talking about. It's just an hour, maybe an hour and a half east of here. So now instead of billions and billions of dollars and a few good jobs and some great tax revenue, you know, from the property taxes and whatnot going into the schools, it's going to go somewhere else. So now we get zero out of it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your clear standards protecting Texans. Yeah, protecting us from what? Prosperity? Every data center that moves somewhere else is a loss for Texas. And it's only going to be worse. Listen, we have 621 data centers already in Texas. And Governor Abbott didn't care about the water usage or the fact that they didn't have their own power generation. So this isn't a principled economic stance he's taking. This is a political stance he's taking because he thinks this will make him popular with a certain constituency. And give him credit. The anti-data center constituency is activated. They are loud. They do make a fuss on Facebook. If I put something on about data centers on Facebook, I'll have 100 people be against it and 10 people be for it. But I know in the crowd, more people are for it. They're just not exercised about it. Because you and I both have the same problem. We're not motivated by positive as much as we are by negative. And rightfully so. It's an evolutionary trait, negative cognitivity bias. You don't have to worry about an animal that's walking by if it's friendly. You really only have to worry about an animal walking by if it's dangerous. So we are evolutionarily wired to pay more attention to negative things. This is killing us. We have to stop this now. We want every data center possible built here. I'm not saying we have to go rape the water table or run us out of electricity. Let's deal with those situations too. I don't have my head in the sand. I'm not Pollyanna. I know these things take a lot of resources. We need to accommodate that. But this, running it off to another state, dumb, economically illiterate, but politically smart. So now we know where his head's at. So if he runs for anything in higher office, I'm never voting for that dude. I'm not voting for him for governor. Here's the next story. Dallas police investigate man's unexplained death on Wendelken Street. This is from the Dallas Express. He's a 60-year-old. He's one of our neighbors. He was just found unresponsive at 2:20 in the afternoon on yesterday. And police have classified the case so far as an unexplained death, but they didn't say whether or not there was foul play suspected. They didn't even announce a cause or manner of death. But here we have a situation where we're not getting straight answers from the authorities. They're hiding what happened to this guy. They're not even letting you know if it was a natural death, if there was foul play, if it was a medical emergency, if he was stabbed, if he was shot, if someone cut his head off with a guillotine. You don't know. But in the absence of this, and you can kind of guess if you go look on the map, this is probably a person of color. No Benjamin Crump, no Al Sharpton, no Dominic Alexander. No, we have a mysterious case of someone dying, but if you can't make a white person look bad, there's no interest in it. Now, the kid that jumped off the bridge at Lake Ray Hubbard, terrible tragedy that he lost his life. The unfortunate part is he was with two white friends, and so we got Ben Crump and Al Sharpton out here making hay about that. They care about that. We've got to get some answers. We demand an independent investigation. We just can't have one of us die and then they hide all the info from us. Well, they're doing it here. You don't care? Oh, that's right. You're motivated by white hatred. Ha! Can y'all just drop the race thing? It makes you really ugly people. And then these are the people that accuse me of racism. Ridiculous. And then one more I can squeeze in here. There's a new study that came out from Money Lion, and it shows that middle-class Texans, although we're earning more than we did 5 years ago on the number line, that income has not kept the pace of inflation. And so now the cost of living outpaces income, and the average Texan in the middle class losing ground. When I have a hyper focus on the budget, this is why. You should have my same concern about balancing the budget in DC, because we all got a pay cut over the last 6 years. If you got a 3% pay increase over the last 5 years, that was far dwarfed by the 25, almost 30% now. Like if you take from 2019 to today, it's right at 30% what inflation is. So even if you got a 20% raise over the last 6 years, you are still behind. And if you're wondering, like, why am I making more money than ever, but my bills keep getting tougher and I can't get ahead and I can't save for retirement, I can't save for my kids' college fund, and I can't get an emergency fund. Inflation. Letting them run a $2 trillion deficit every year is doing this to you. It's doing it to all of us in the middle class. You're doing it to me, and I'm sick of it. I need more people paying attention to this so it will stop. And it's not going to stop because the Democrats don't hold their party accountable for running a deficit. The Republicans don't hold their party accountable for running a deficit. We're going to have another government shutdown scare. I mean, weren't we just in one? Are we in one now? And at the end of it, they're going to come together and they're going to agree to spend more of your money and give you more of a pay cut every single year going forward. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way for it'll sink into people who don't really care about this, because I know you care about sex or trans or abortion or gay or all these other things that are kind of sexy. But this is the one that's killing you more than anything else, is the deficit. Can we please start caring about that, because it's killing me? Leighton and Cisco, you're going to be the last word on the James Show. Go.
Yes, sir. You keep talking about data centers and asking, we have 621. What's so different now?
Yeah.
It's just like boiling a frog in water. You start slow and turn the heat up. A lot of people are just now becoming aware of it. And it doesn't take 621 data centers to build AI.
Of course it does.
These flock cameras.
How many does it take?
Well, dang well doesn't take 621 plus however many more.
So you think they're just spending billions of dollars building unnecessary data centers? Is that what you think, Leighton?
Well, I do know that these flock cameras, that all that data that they collect has got to go somewhere. And, you say everybody wants them. Evidently, not everybody does.
Hey, Leighton.
No, I don't.
Hey, Leighton, if we outlaw drugs, does that get rid of drugs?
No.
If we outlaw guns, does that get rid of guns?
No.
If we outlaw data centers, does that get rid of data centers? Thank you. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. Mark Levin's next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.